Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's astrological rabbit hole, because that's what it is. I'm not joking. People think I joke. I don't joke. I will share my screen, and we can see what's going on. So this week we have Venus in sextile with Mars on Monday, the 6th. Let's make sure that stays where it's supposed to. And so what does this mean? Well, the funny thing is about this Venus sextile Mars in the general forecast, and I'm going to do things a little bit differently, so hopefully you stay with me here. The Venus sextiling Mars at 19 degrees. So I was looking at this and I'm like, that sounds familiar. Why does 19 degrees stick out for me for some reason? Why? Why does it stick out? Because that's where the eclipse point is going to be coming up in June. Oh my goodness. That means there's an eclipse activation. Oh boy. Okay. So in general, though, with Venus in sextile to Mars, Aries to Gemini, this is a very talkative, action-oriented aspect. Venus in Aries wants to get things done. Mars in Gemini wants to talk about the million things on his mind. The sextile offers Mars the action and support from his home sign, which is Venus in his home sign, and from his favorite feminine. Okay. Mars in Gemini is playful, maybe a little wordy, maybe a little distracted. The combination of these two in sextile has an effervescence that's undeniable, attraction, stimulation, a coming together of sorts. So even if we're not in partnership, we can still benefit from a drastic change in mood on all things action and communication oriented. And so let's also talk a little bit about this activation that's happening. So Mars at 19 degrees is activating the incoming solar eclipse on June 10th. So on the 6th, you really want to pay attention, or around the 6th, probably even about the time I'm filming this, Mars is coming close. Let me see the exact degree here of where Mars is. He is at 17 degrees of Gemini. So he's starting to go over where, getting closer to where the nodes were when we were having the eclipses back in November, December timeframe. Mars on Monday is going to hit that 19-degree incoming solar eclipse that we're going to have on June 10th. And so we definitely want to pay attention on this day and the surrounding days. So like maybe from this coming, even today, Friday, what is today? Today is the, oh, it's 5:55, by the way. Today's April 2nd. So even starting on April 2nd through maybe the 7th or the 8th. Yeah, probably from, because it's on the 6th. I would say this, like over the course of this weekend and a couple days after, as Mars separates from that degree point, it's sensitive, it's being triggered. It's kind of funny that Mars is the first planet that's going to be triggering this. Well, it's kind of funny that Mars is going to be triggering the North Node through this whole transit that he's going through. So there's definitely this feeling of drive, ambition, action, moving forward, cutting things away, right? Because with lunar and solar eclipses, they're you have to give up something to gain something. It's a portal, right? Like, and I hate when people say that, because it's like, you see the picture, but it is. It's a portal into energy that's available to you. If it's hitting, if it's squaring, if it's in sextile with planets, if it's activating anything going on in your chart, it's going to be more personal for you. It's going to be, more on that level of, this is energy that's being activated in your birth chart. This is for you. Okay. So there's definitely some things that you need to pay attention to. So this is You know, there's going to be signs, there's going to be synchronicities, there's going to be something that's showing you what is inbound in terms of energy and fruition of something new that's at this 19-degree point. And this is also a continuation of the previous eclipse cycle. And so there's something that's coming up here that we need to pay attention to, that we need to evaluate, that we need to possibly look at in terms of where it is we're going, what it is we're doing, things that maybe we need to cut away because Mars is cutting, right? It rules knives, it rules, you know, it rules separation, it rules those types of things. But it also gives you that drive and that ambition to go towards what it is that you want to accomplish, what it is you want to create. And so I mean, really this whole week is under the influence of that conjunction of Mars to that 19-degree point. And with Venus in sextile, you know, from Mars's home sign of Aries, and then the subsequent new moon that's going to be happening. There's a lot going on this week that's really interesting, I will say. I'll say interesting because it almost seems like right now is a mini manifestation of the energies that are going to continue to unfold and move forward with these eclipse points. So enough about Mars and the eclipse point. Now on April 9th, we're going to have Mars squaring Neptune and Saturn in trine with the North Node. So again, here we go. Like we've been having all of these North Node, South Node activations because if Saturn's in trine with the North Node, what's it doing? It's in sextile with the South Node. So there's a lot of things going on with the nodes the last few weeks, and like you can definitely see it in terms of what's going on, what's happening. I mean, especially if you know your chart, if you know where Gemini and Sagittarius are, what houses they rule, and where those planets are in your chart, and know whether or not you have planets being activated by all of these transits, you know that there's something going on. So one of the aspects that so Mars in square with Neptune, it's not my favorite. I don't like Mars in square with Neptune. I know people that have this. And you have to be aware when Mars is in square with Neptune, and this is why knowing astrology is so, so important. You have to be aware that there could be some very low simmering anger on this day, on the 9th, that could burst forth at any moment and take you unaware, either yourself or someone else. So Mars in square with Neptune can be very confusing about maybe where you have crossed a boundary with someone. And you could be either on the receiving end of a very intense tirade, or you that comes out of nowhere, or you could be the one doling out the intense tirade that seems to be coming out of nowhere. So just be aware, you know, that someone else close to you or someone that you're in conversation with, because, you know, Mars is in Gemini, so it's conversation. There could be some really tense words that are really confusing and you're not understanding why someone is angry at you, or you're not, maybe even you're not understanding why you're angry at someone. Weird. So, sorry, just got distracted. There's weird noises happening in my house again. So with this though, just be aware, maybe if you get angry at someone, maybe journal it and understand why. Oh, it must be the cat. So you know, understand why, understand where it's coming from, understand that, you know, maybe ask yourself, does this person really deserve the anger that's going to be coming at them, or is this something that is an internal process that I need to go through first before I launch out at them? Sorry, that's really distracting. And so then, you know, on the same day though, Saturn is in trine with the North Node. So with Saturn in trine with the North Node, this is offering a very grounded and practical approach to where it is and what it is we're moving towards, creating or talking about. Saturn is supporting us in our goals at this time. It's well received. But, you know, just be aware that the Mars in square with Neptune may also be there to show us a way that we shouldn't be going. Maybe there's something we shouldn't be going towards. Or maybe there's just confusion and misunderstanding about in communication with someone about a spiritual thing that's happening, or about their spiritual practice, or about your spiritual practice. You know what I mean? Because Neptune is in its home sign. It does have that very spiritual, very etheric kind of energy. I just am happy that Mercury is going to be gone out of Neptune's domain very soon. It's still there while I'm filming this, but it needs to go. So there is that. If you don't like my humor, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I'm me. I'm not going to apologize. Well, actually, no, I just did apologize. But ultimately, I'm not going to apologize for me being me anymore. So I'm me. If you love me, if you hate me, I mean, if you hate me and you're watching this, then you're a fan. I don't know what to say. So Mercury in sextile with the North Node on April 10th, Mercury in sextile with Saturn on the 10th as well, and Venus in sextile with Jupiter all on the same day. You know, as Mercury moves closer and closer to its home sign of Gemini, it is coming into a really nice sextile with the North Node to communicate some important information that needs to be taken action on. Mercury in Aries is asking us to be forthright and direct in all that we do. With Mercury also in sextile with Saturn on this day, Mercury is getting the help and support from the institutions, from the people in positions of power and authority it needs to be able to move towards what its goals, dreams, ambitions, and communicate in a direct way what support it needs and what help it needs from the authority on the matter. Okay. With Venus in sextile to Jupiter on this day, same day as Mercury is both in sextile with the North Node and in sextile with Saturn. So really there's like this kind of weird Saturn trine the North Node, Mercury in between sextiling from both ends. It's an interesting little position to be in. And so with Venus, though, you know, moving over to Venus and Jupiter that are in sextile on this day, you know, from Aries to Aquarius, this is a good day for communicating our future plans with a teacher or a mentor. This is a really good day to socialize and make connections with like-minded, future-oriented people, or to have a discussion about something that's going to be initiated in the future. And all in all, this is a really great day for taking action on our future plans, on our future goals, on our future projects, and doing something that will have long-lasting effects and do it in partnership with other people. So the 10th is a really great day, great energy. I'm really digging it. On the 11th, we are coming into that new moon in Aries. We do on this same day at this new moon have Venus in square with Pluto. So we have the sun, we have the moon, we have Venus, and we have Mercury all kind of piled into the, I would say, the last half, right? Because Mercury is at 12 degrees, I believe, by this new moon. This is a very interesting new moon. It's a very intense, interesting new moon. So we will have Mercury. Yeah, we will have. I'm looking. I want to look because I want to make sure. Yeah, Mercury's going to be at like 13, 14 degrees of Aries. So it's going to be there, but it's going to be outside of like the actual physical conjunction. Because this is happening at 22 degrees. So, well, it's 9 degrees. You still can't see Mercury. Our thoughts might be a little more intense, and now we're not able to see Mercury. We're still not able to see Venus yet either. But we're kind of moving into the realm of confusion in relationship, confusion, you know, well, we've been confused about relationship, but maybe confusing thoughts, maybe like a little jumbled, a little mixed up, and there's not understanding what it is that we need to go, we need to do, or where to go, or what to really talk about. But we're feeling fired up and we're feeling passionate. We just don't really know what to do because things are a little confusing because you can't see Mercury. So there is that. But this new moon in Aries does have a very interesting seeding of intent. You know, just wherever it shows up for you, look at it, look at where Venus is, look at where Mars is as well, or Pluto, sorry. Look at where Pluto is at that 26 degree of Capricorn, whatever house that falls in for you, and where Venus is at 26 degrees of Aries. You need to pay attention to that. So the Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus are in orbital conjunction in the last, you know, in the last half of Aries. So, you know, Mercury and Venus, they would be more in a sign-based conjunction because they're too far apart to actually be in a degree-based conjunction, but it's still, it's all that energy. This would be a stellium packed into Aries right now. So they're all together with the sun and the moon in Aries. And looking at this chart, you know, and seeing the, you know, the Venus square and it's exact on this day, with Venus being invisible because she is so close to the sun, it doesn't really, there's going to be some, I don't want to say it doesn't bode well, but it really does have more of that little bit of an ominous kind of feel to it just because it's Pluto. And Pluto in square can be a real, yeah, Pluto in square can be really very intense, you know, and with Venus being invisible, there's some very intense issues going on. Let's put it that way. So there are some things that need to be addressed with authority, power, control, how we relate to authority, power, and control, you know, or the secrets of the elite, right? Because this is definitely, this kind of struck me as like secrets being kept and, you know, intense control being from the top down because it is Capricorn and Aries. You know, taking control of assets. I really feel like there's like this overreaching kind of plutonic energy seizing something. Like I feel like there's going to be some type of seizure with this over the course of, you know, the unfoldment of this moon cycle. But otherwise, this new moon is beautiful and full of trines and sextiles and quintiles too, you know, support and initiation of all things new and action oriented. But, you know, with the square, there will be some very intense, like, don't get so focused and obsessed and downright like crazy focus, right? That you absolutely look insane to the outside world. You know, it's intense. Pluto is really intense. So just be aware of the intensity that Pluto brings, because you can't discount it. It might be an outer planet. It might not be a planet anymore. It's a dwarf planet, but really the effects of Pluto are still felt throughout the psyche of the collective. But you know, without the square, there would be no fire lit under us to take action. Just be aware that the action that you take may not need to be so intense that maybe you could get things done in a little bit more maybe Venusian way versus the Plutonic way. So there is that. But that's what's happening in the general forecast. And that's why I also like this picture, because it's really, we're going down a rabbit hole with this one. And there's some interesting energy afoot. So that being said, how is this going to shape up for Aries and Aries rising? So we're going to talk about the Venus in sextile with Mars at 19 degrees on Monday, and we're going to talk about the new moon with Venus square. So what's going on Monday? Venus in sextile with Mars. You know, Venus is at 19 degrees of Aries. So depending on where your ascendant, sun, or moon is, this could be activating your ascendant, sun, or moon. And in a sextile with Mars, in your third house, this could see you communicating something to a partner or to a potential partner, but there's definitely some type of fated, some type of karmic communication. This is your planet Aries. So there's this sense that maybe you're the one that's taking action, you're the one that's talking things out with a partner, or you're the one that is talking about resources and things like that. on this day, because there's something that's coming in, something that is incoming, right? In that third house, that realm of communication, of siblings, of, I mean, this could be a communication from a sibling to you as well, about maybe forming a partnership with them in business, or this could be maybe a sibling, introducing you to a new partner, either for business, or if you're single, it could be, maybe a romantic partner, right? Because that seventh house is being activated, and the sun is in your, the sun rules your fifth house, that's being activated. They're all moving together, right? So, and with Mercury here, you're going to feel fired up, you're going to feel passionate. So there could definitely be some communication in regards to relationship, finances, new relationships, new business contracts, or, maybe, like I said, if you're single, this could be, this could be a really, this could be a really intense drive for Aries rising people in particular to really push towards, apparently I can't talk. So pushing towards a more romantic, maybe taking that romantic long term and making it a partnership, a contractual partnership, by asking someone to marry them. So could be that too. For for the new moon that's happening, this is happening in your sign. So this is your new moon on your ascendant, or, depending on, where your ascendant degree is, but this is still your first house. This is a new moon for you. This is a new beginning for you. But you need to be aware of the energy of Venus in square with Pluto from your 10th to your first house. And so, this could, whew, sorry, hold on. It's getting to be allergy season here. Everything's starting to wake up, even though we got snow yesterday where I live. Like, there's still things that are coming out. There are flowers blooming around my house, even crocuses and daffodils and whatever else there's that's purple and yellow flowers. So allergy season. Woohoo. So this new moon, and I do apologize for that. So, this new moon and this subsequent Venus Pluto square, this could really see you driving for success in partnership. This could really see you, pushing the envelope in terms of what it is that you're doing out in the world and what it is that you're known for, and really being very ambitious about it, possibly to the detriment of, relationships or business partners. Just be aware of that. But the square, it is action that needs to be taken in partnership with other people, to get to that next level for you, Aries. With the sun and the moon cure, this is, this is several, Mercury rules your third house and your sixth house. The sun rules your fifth house, the moon rules your fourth house, and Venus rules your second and your seventh house. We are talking about, and then Mars, right? Mars is still in the mix here in the sextile, forming, degree, a sign-based sextile. This is like 7 houses for you, Aries. This is 7 houses for everyone, but this is still across many different areas of life. You are evaluating and sitting back and understanding where you are and what to do with your money, what to do with your communication, what to do with your home and your family, your children, your health, even, and your relationships, your partnerships, whether or not it's money or one-to-one partnerships, right? Like business partnerships, or like long-term. Good Lord, I can't speak today. Business partners or marriage partners or spouses of any type, right? Like long-term partnerships. But with the subsequent square, there's definitely something that is going to be very intense. There's going to be some very intense communication around what you're doing out in the world and you and what you're doing in partnership with other people and maybe what you're doing with your money. That's what I see for Aries rising people. For Taurus and for Taurus rising people. So this Venus in sextile with Mars is happening from your 12th to your 2nd. So there is definitely something going on that is activating it's activating the incoming eclipse at 19 degrees of Gemini. This is this is an eclipse activation. And so Mars is coming through first, kind of, riling up all these sensitive points of the eclipse activations from last year, right? Last November and December, and then the ones incoming this year in June and May and June. And then I think there's another one in November, December as well. There's a total solar eclipse actually in December, I believe, or November. But this activation is happening. So this is your chart ruler, right? So there's something that you're working on behind the scenes, and there's a sense that you're working on something at home. You're working on something in terms of what it is that you yourself are going to be doing, as well as, you know, what it is, where it is, and how it is that you're showing up in service, a creative project that you're working on to gain that money. And so there's definitely with this new moon, and especially with this new moon, but really too with this eclipse of this eclipse activation happening, there's something that is going to be brought in for you to be able to there's like a window of opportunity, right? So with Mars in your 2nd house, your focus really, I mean, is on that bank, is on that bag, right? However, whatever the kids are saying these days about it, but like it's on banking that money and getting that money and making that material possessions that you have. Now with pretty much this stellium that is in at this new moon, right? This new moon that's happening in Aries, this is happening in your 12th house. This could be a new spiritual business. This could be, a new way of doing things on how to make your money, because Mercury is also involved. But it's also, with so with this new moon happening, and then the subsequent sextiles too, there could be some interesting things going on in terms of communication that's coming in about a job, about a spiritual business. And with the square, though, from Venus to Pluto, from your 12th to your 9th, this could be some very intense communication about what it is that you are going to be doing in terms of education, whether or not that's teaching or learning, or there could be some an intense need, want, or desire to travel. And just be aware of that square to Pluto. It's really intense and it's very driven and it's very focused and obsessive. So just be aware of that energy, because this is your chart ruler, and this is also the ruler of your 6th house of where it is that you're showing up in service to other people. So with this square, and it's in your 12th house. So just be aware that if you're doing something behind the scenes, you want to make sure that it's on the up and up. Because if it's not on the up and up, there's definitely going to be some arguments and disputes later on as it comes through, and as we get closer to, different aspects that are going to be upcoming, right? So just make sure that everything that you're doing is on the up and up, and you're not so driven and so focused and so obsessive about something that you inadvertently cut something out of your life or cut someone out of your life. Could be that as well. But with this energy, though, I mean, this is great if you're starting a spiritual practice, if you're starting a entrepreneurship type venture, or if you're really pushing to get to that next level, you know, in your business, in your spiritual practice, in what you're doing behind the scenes, there could be a lot of people involved as well. But there's definitely a lot of energy in that 12th house. There's new beginnings in a spiritual, you know, there's a new beginning in the house of endings, right? So this could see you definitely wanting to pull away from the world and getting all kinds of downloads and things that are coming through, and pay attention to your dreams and pay attention to, you know, what's going on with that for you. Because this is definitely, you know, with this, it's a stellium. Pay attention to what's going on, you know, in your thoughts, in your dreams, and what's going on, like kind of pulling away from the world and focusing on where you're regrouping to come forward back through that ascendant as the planets all move through there. So that's for Taurus. For Gemini, we have Venus in sextile with Mars from your 11th house to your first house. So this is really great because this is activating an incoming eclipse for you. And so for Geminis, over the course of, you know, since last year up to next year, I believe it's January when the nodes finally move out of Gemini and into Taurus, but this is really good for you. There's this focus for the last little while and for on the next little while on you and what you're doing and who you are, and maybe focusing on yourself and understanding who you are at that core level, because there's things that are changing. Your partnerships are changing. People are leaving your life. People are coming into your life. There's different dynamics that are happening. And for you, with this activation of this North Node eclipse that's incoming in June, this is something to do with a friends group. This is something to do maybe with money and materials that you're creating from the resources that you're doing out in the world and from what it is that you're known for. And so there's definitely a change happening with you physically. You're going to be fired up. You're going to be passionate. You're going to be, you know, in that realm of, you're going to talk about it. You're going to get things done. You're going to be proactive. You're going to be more martial in your nature, right? You're going to be more active. And this is great because now you're going to be talking about it. Geminis love to talk. So you're going to be really fired up and passionate about it. And with that sextile to Venus, you know, Venus is offering support from your friends group. You know, this is the ruler of your friends group. So you're feeling really fired up and passionate about something that's going on in that friends group, especially with this new moon going on, you know, with, sorry, allergies. They just come on really quickly and I don't have time to take anything for them or anything. So there's, you know, you're feeling really fired up and really passionate about something that's going on, especially with this new moon, you know, and there's an intensity that's happening though too with this Venus Pluto square that's happening at this new moon. It's something to do with issues of power and control with money, something to do with institutions, maybe loans, debts, other people's money, inheritances, insurances. So there's definitely something going on with that, you know, with that 11th house and that 8th house, with the square aspect between Jupiter and Venus, or Jupiter. It's not a thing yet. Okay, with Pluto and wow, with Pluto and Venus. So there's something that's really intense that's going on for you, Gemini, that could have to do with either debts, inheritances, insurances, other people's money, loans. And it has to do with your, you know, it's going on in your friends group. Like maybe you're crowdsourcing. This would be a crowdsource to me. But don't get so obsessed about making that money and taking that money in that you lose sight of, you know, the fact that maybe it's not yours. Maybe you're doing it for someone else. Maybe you're doing it for a friend, or, you know, even a friend, a sibling, a child, even, because Venus does rule your fifth house of children. So just be aware that, you know, there could be some issues surrounding money and materials and whatnot. So with that square and other people's money. So just be aware of that going forward. So that's really what I got to say. For Cancer and for Cancer rising, this Venus in sextile to Mars is activating, right? So Mars is activating, Mars is transiting, Mars is activating this incoming solar eclipse that's happening at 19 degrees of Gemini. You have Venus in sextile at the same time that Mars is activating this point from your 10th house. This has something to do with your career. This has something to do with the spiritual business. This has something to do with, I mean, especially because Mars rules your 10th house, Cancer, right? Mars rules your 10th house. This is a spiritual business, taking action, working in partnership with someone else that's either of a Venusian nature or this could be money coming in from, right? And you're going to see some type of result. You're going to see some type of, you're going to see something going on in terms of that 12th house, whether or not it's pulling away from the world, ashrams, you know, retreats, hospitals, rehabilitation centers, or you could be really fired up and passionate, you know, about something that's going on behind the scenes, something that you're creating, even because Venus is in sextile to Mars hitting that point. And, you know, Venus does rule your 11th house of your social status and your hopes, your wishes, your dreams, and the things that you want to move towards. So there is definitely something going on, you know, with that 10th house, and subsequently it's going to affect the 11th house when Venus comes through. But right now, this is an activation of the incoming eclipse, of something that's coming to us, something that is, you know, the seas of the universe will part and something will come through for you, right? Like it's a portal. So then with this new moon happening in your 10th house, this is a brand new beginning. This is a very intense brand new beginning in partnership for you because of the subsequent Venus square Pluto aspect that's going on at the same time. So there is definitely something going on in partnership and in terms of what it is that you're seeding for your career. Just be sure that you are not so intensely focused that you are either using other people, or that you're not so focused on what it is that's going on up in that 10th house that you forget about your partnerships, right? Or that you're so focused on getting the clients or doing the thing that you neglect other areas. Like this can be a very intense and very, I don't want to say cutthroat because that's more of a Mars things, but this is a very intense laser focused, right? Like super laser focused. So just be aware of that energy, and just be aware that, you know, you might get so like blinders on and so focused that you don't see or don't hear other people's opinions, and they matter, right? Like other people do matter. So just be aware of that, Cancer. So that's what I got to say about that. For Leo and for Leo rising, this is happening. The activation of this eclipse point at 19 degrees of Gemini is happening in your 11th house, and Venus is in your 9th house. So there's definitely something going on this coming week in terms of the upcoming eclipse in June, right? So you want to pay attention about what's going on there, what's coming up for you in your social groups, what's coming up for you maybe over the internet or an internet-based business. And you want to pay attention to the people that are showing up for you or showing up in that 11th house of the groups and the people that you surround yourself with by choice, because there's definitely something going on there. There's definitely something happening. So, and it's happening from your 9th house. So this could be institutions that you associate with. Maybe this is some type of education that you're taking, or some type of education that you want to take, or this could also be you teaching something, you know, because Venus does rule your 10th house, what you're known for. Maybe you're going to be known for teaching something going forward. And this is a portal, right? So eclipses are like portals, right? So if you have planets or points at any of at 19 degrees of Gemini, 19 degrees of Pisces or Virgo, or 19 degrees of Sagittarius, this is going to activate something for you. And so depending on what planet or what point it is, depends on what it's activating. So pay attention, Make sure you know your chart and look at it. With Venus here, though, Venus does rule your 10th and your 3rd house. So there could be some type of communication that's going on about something to do with that group and that organization, the hopes and the wishes and the dreams, and maybe even the monies that could possibly come in from doing something with the institutions, or maybe even some type of travel or some type of place that you want to go. With this new moon in your 9th house, in square with Pluto in your 6th house, this can be really intense drive and ambition, you know, with what it is that what it is that you're doing on your daily basis. Maybe you're going to be super hyper focused about what it is that's going on with this new moon in your 9th house, that there's something that needs to be taken care of on the daily basis. There's something that is really intense, you know, something that is going on, especially, you know, with both Mars and Pluto being activated with Venus this week. There's something about the home in terms of understanding that higher perspective in that 9th house. There could be maybe subsequent conversation about moving. There could be subsequent conversation about new beginnings in terms of where it is that you're going to move to or what it is that you're doing. You know, with especially with that eclipse activation this week as well, and then the new moon. Yeah, it just, there's definitely some interesting stuff going on for Leo rising in particular. And sorry, let me yawn. You're not boring, Leo. I'm sorry. It's just I'm getting used to this. Time changes is really for the birds. You know, because your chart ruler's here, your 12th house ruler's here in the 9th house, your 10th and 3rd house ruler is here, your you know, your 2nd and your 11th house ruler is here. Like there's a lot of areas of life that are really being focused on that 9th house. There's a bigger, broader understanding that you need to really come to with all of these planets here about, you know, what it is that you still need to learn, what it is that you have to offer in terms of teaching, if that's something that's applicable to you. Maybe where it is that you want to travel to and where you want to go or where you want to move to, right? Because you do have Mars in that sextile to that 11th house. Like maybe there's a travel, something to do with travel that you really want to do that has to do with friends groups, or that has to do with groups or organizations or people that you surround yourself with by choice. Like maybe you really are feeling fired up and passionate about people in your friends group that you want to go visit, but you can't go visit yet. You gotta work on it, right? Or maybe there's an opportunity that comes up that you can go and see those friends groups. Or maybe there's an opportunity to teach with those friends groups. Or maybe there's an opportunity that comes in that you can learn something from those friends groups too. Just be aware of that Pluto, you know, down there in the 6th house. You know, it's still kind of revamping and redoing what it is that you're doing on a daily basis in your health and your routines and the things that you need to do. So just be aware of that energy and don't get so hyper focused and like, yeah, obsessive about what it is that you're doing on a daily basis to the point where you exclude anything and anyone else outside of that. So just be aware of that. For Virgo and for Virgo rising, this activation of the eclipse point coming in is happening in your 10th house, right? So there's definitely, if you pay attention over the course of, you know, the 3rd, the 4th, or no, yeah, 3rd, 4th, no, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, I would say, pay attention to what's going on around that time period and the conversations that you're having with other people, because there's an eclipse activation happening up there in your 10th house. There's an activation of something incoming. There's going to be conversation surrounding what it is that you're doing. And it rules your 8th house of debt, joint finances, taxes, inheritances, insurances, you know, other people meddling maybe in your business, But with Venus in sextile, this aspect alone is very much communication coming in about a different perspective and what to do with the debt that you have left, maybe, or what it is that you're doing up there in that career sector for you. And also, Venus does rule your money, your materials, your possessions, and she's in the eighth house of other people. So just be aware. And especially Mars does also rule your third house, not just your eighth house, but like your siblings, your communication. So maybe there could be a communication coming in from, extended family members, or there could be a communication coming in from an institution of some kind that is going to set you on the path that you need to be on with this opportunity that's coming in for the eclipse activation. Yes, that. So then with this new moon, Aries new moon, and the subsequent Venus square Pluto, this is happening in your eighth and in your fifth house. So there's definitely, you have been hyper focused, laser focused on some type of passion project, some type of, creative hobby, creative endeavor, creative thing that you've been working on. And now with this new moon coming in, there's money coming in from other people, or there's, I would say it's incoming with this new moon. There's a new beginning that's happening too, possibly with, your spouse's, right? Because this is happening in the eighth house of other people's money. Maybe there's something that's going on with your partner, your marriage partner, that there's a new beginning happening in the sector of money for them. Maybe they're getting a new job, or they're getting a pay raise, or they're getting money that's coming into them, with this new moon happening in your eighth house. But with that Venus squaring Pluto, this could be you hyper focus on your partner's resources and your partner's money, and to the detriment maybe of your relationship. Just be aware of that. Don't get so hyper focused on your partner's money and what they're doing with their money that you forget about your own money. This could also see maybe you and your partner, putting money together to put money towards something, in the future. Um, there is that. And then, yeah, I mean, yeah, trying to think here. Sorry. I'm like, this Mercury needs to move out of Pisces for me, because it's really fogging my brain up, and I don't make sense to myself. So if I don't make sense to myself, I know I'm not making sense to you guys and gals and unicorns, whatever you associate with. Um, so yeah. And so with Mercury here too in your eighth house, this is your focus on other people's money, joint finances, and things like that. There could also be, with the sun and the moon here, there could also be, with this new beginning happening, this could definitely be a new beginning in terms of maybe paying off some debts, or the seeding of intent to pay off some debts, through, other people, or paying off debts to other people as well. So that's for Virgo. For Libra and for Libra rising, this activation is happening in your ninth house from your seventh. So there's a partnership that could be forming, for you. You are focused on partnership. And with this activation in your ninth house, this could definitely be some type of communication that's coming in about a contract for, a new place of being, whether or not this is for your I mean, okay, so I'm just gonna call it some Libra risings. This could be a communication about a contract that is coming in for you to purchase a new place of being for your business. Okay, because you do have seventh and eighth, first and second, other people's monies, your monies, how you make your money, and the money coming in from institutions signing on the dotted line with Venus in the seventh house. Venus rules you, Venus rules your eighth house of debt. There could definitely be some incoming energies in terms of, what's going to be going on around that eclipse on the 10th of June. There's communication coming in about forming an alliance, forming a partnership, signing on the dotted line, and purchasing said building or lease agreement, or however that looks for you. This is definitely money and materials, yours and other people's, coming together to be able to purchase or to lease or to put money on some type of place of being. For the new moon happening, this is a new beginning in your seventh house. This is new contracts, new negotiations, new agreements, new partners. Maybe some of you are getting married. But with Venus in square with Pluto from the fourth house, there's definitely something that's really intense that's going to draw your attention to the home, to the family, to the roots, to the property, or a continuation, right, of that activation of partnership to said building. There could definitely be some very laser focused kind of intense negotiations around this, but don't be so hyper focused and laser focused in on it that you're kind of, to your detriment, or to the detriment of your partners, or to the detriment of your clients or the things that are coming in. There's definitely something brewing in terms of that ninth house activation as well. But this seventh house new moon, I mean, this is a new beginning in relationship. This is a new beginning in partnership. So maybe you are signing on the dotted line this week, or in the subsequent coming weeks during this new moon cycle that we're in Aries. And so that's very action oriented and taking charge and doing things in partnership with other people. Just be aware of that Pluto energy. It is really intense. And it's I mean, or this could be you getting money and materials from selling something. There could be that as well. For Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, this activation is happening in your eighth house. So with Venus and Mars at 19 degrees in your eighth and in your sixth house, there's something going on with this activation of the incoming eclipse for June 10th, because Mars is at 19 degrees. And there's something that is going on in relation to maybe your partner, business partner, or, marriage partner. This is also you, right? Because Mars does rule you, Scorpio, and Venus does rule your contractual obligations with people, whether or not it's your business partners or your spouse. So this sextile that's going on from your sixth to your eighth, I mean, this could definitely see a window of opportunity opening for you in terms of what's incoming for that solar eclipse at 19 degrees of Gemini in June. And so this could see you focused on communicating something in terms of debt, in terms of other people's money or joint finances with your partner, and having to have those daily conversations about what's going to be going on with that eighth house, with that incoming eclipse. Maybe there's something that is going to be resolved for you, something that's going to be put down for you in terms of debts and other people's money, and you're going to clear something out, and it's not going to be right. There's an activation here. So there's definitely your focus, because this is your chart ruler, one of them. Your focus is definitely on healing old wounds, old trauma, old baggage. And there's, with these eclipses that are happening in your second and your eighth house, there's new energy coming in for that eighth house. So there's definitely a potential for your partnerships to really come to the fore with that as well. But it's also you kind of taking action on something, whether or not it's paying off debt, because the eighth and the sixth house are debts owed. So there could be a payoff happening, or there could be like a glimpse into what's going to be going on for you for that eclipse on June 10th at 19 degrees of Gemini. And then for this new moon that's happening, there's this new moon happening in your sixth house. So I mean, you've been busy with all these planets here, just bunching together in your sixth house, Scorpio. So you got the sun, you got the moon, you got Mercury, you got Venus, and they're all coming together with this new moon in Aries in terms of what it is that you're doing on a daily basis. So if you've been uber busy and you want to really overhaul and change something in terms of what it is that you're doing on a daily basis, and your health routines and the things that you're doing, this is definitely a great time to see the intention for that, as well as, being focused, right? Just be aware of the Pluto square, because this could be really intense communication about what's going on. I mean, the third and the sixth house, this is also like communications on a daily basis could be really intense at this point, and there could be a lot of it because Pluto, like, it doesn't just destroy, it's like super focused, right? So just be aware that maybe and employees too, right? Because the sixth house is also employees. Just be aware that you know you got to watch what it is that you're saying to either coworkers, colleagues, or employees, and like how you're saying it, because with Pluto in square with Venus, this could definitely be some really kind of weird energy, because Pluto also rules you. This is your communication. Venus does rule your seventh house and your 12th house. So there's definitely some, don't be so hyper focused on what it is that they're doing that you try to take control of it. Like, everybody's got to live their life and do the things that they need to do. Just because it doesn't necessarily look the way you want it to, right, doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. Because maybe yeah, I mean, it could be that. It could be like really intense communications around colleagues, coworkers, employees, things like that. But there's a new beginning here. So it's a really intense new beginning, and maybe there's an understanding that needs to happen, that action needs to be taken. Maybe there needs to be clarification on some things, but it's it's gonna really work out in the long term, because it's, yeah, especially with the subsequent sextiles that are happening too in support of this, because you have Jupiter and Saturn down there in the fourth, Mars in the eighth, supporting that sixth house, what's going on in that sixth house. So even with the Pluto square, it can be really intense conversations, or a lot of them too. So there's that. Just be aware of that, and just be aware that, Pluto does add that intensity. I mean, it might not be a bad thing, right? Like, it might be a really, really good thing, but it might be overkill. For Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising, this Venus sextile Mars is happening from your fifth house to your seventh house. So there's definitely a focus on relationship. There's a focus on partnership. There's a focus on creative endeavors and creative hobbies and the creative things that you love to do just because you love to do them. Maybe there's a focus on, there's a new beginning that's happening here, with Venus later on in the week with this Aries new moon. But there's definitely this activation of partnership. There's something going on in that seventh house that's incoming, right? Like, so Mars is kind of highlighting what it is that's going to be happening for Sagittarius rising in terms of partnership, and that 19-degree point of where we're going to have that solar eclipse on June 10th. So this is an eclipse activation. Pay attention, right? I mean, you got to pay attention to the details, Saggies, because, you know, this is Mars is fast moving, Mercury, it's ruled by Mercury, it's fast moving, and you have Mercury down in your 5th house of joy, fun, play, hobbies, lovers, romance, things like that, children, creative endeavors. So you really need to pay attention to what's going on in terms of 7th house sector for you and what's incoming, because it's going to come back around again at the eclipse for further evaluation and further, you know, ramp up kind of energy, right? Because eclipses are super intense. New beginnings. So this is happening, you know, this new beginning that's happening for you in your 5th house, you know, it is ruled by Aries. This is partnership. I mean, there could be proposals if you're a single Sagittarius rising, whether or not this is business partners or whether or not this is, you know, romantic partners pop in the question, right? So there could be something going on there as well. But this new beginning in the 5th house in and of itself is beautiful. I mean, you got Venus here, you got the sun, you got the moon, you got Mercury. There's all kinds of energy packed down there in that 5th house of joy, fun, play, hobbies, things that, you know, you love to do just because you love to do them, and lovers and romance and sexy time, right? So whatever it is that you're focused on down here in that 5th house, whatever it is that you're creating down here in that 5th house, just be aware that there's definitely a push-pull thing going on. You know, it's a square aspect, so it's a hard aspect, but there's a fire being lit in terms of money, material possessions for you, because Venus is squaring Pluto from your 5th to your 2nd. So there's definitely something that you're going to want to be paying attention to, and you're going to want to watch what it is that is happening in that 2nd house, your sense of value, your sense of worth, your sense of self-worth, what it is that you truly value, and what it is that you're doing, you know, in terms of this 5th house energy that's going on. You know, that's a lot of planets packed down in that 5th house. So this is, I mean, this is really, it's intense, it's beautiful, it's glorious, it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes, especially because, you know, it's beautiful energy for you, and I really like this for you. And you know, definitely utilize this energy if you can, see those intentions, but just be aware of that Pluto energy, you know, but without the squares, without the square aspects, there's not really a fire lit under our butts to get moving. So there's definitely going to be a fire lit under your butt. Just be aware that it could be overdone with that Plutonic energy. So then for Capricorn and for Capricorn rising, this eclipse activation is happening in your 6th house of your daily routines, of your finances, of your daily routines, your debts, your, not your debt, yeah, your debts, your health, your daily routines, the things that you're doing on a daily basis, your job even. So for you, there could definitely be an activate, something going on with the Venus in sextile with Mars from your 4th house to your 6th house. Maybe there's something that's going on with your job, Capricorn rising people, that is going to something that is incoming, maybe a new opportunity in your job, or maybe a new coworker coming in, or maybe a new you know, maybe a friend comes in to work with you, or a friend offers you a job of some kind. It could be that as well. But this is an eclipse activation. So whatever's going to be, there's going to be, pay attention to what's going on around the 6th of April, because there's going to be signs and synchronicities that go on around what's incoming for you with that solar eclipse coming up on June 10th. So pay attention to that. With the new moon happening in your 4th house, this is a new beginning with your home, your roots, your property, your family. You know, this could be a new beginning for you with your children as well. Just be aware of that Pluto still in your first house in square with Venus, and Venus does rule your children. It also rules your 10th house. So maybe there's an intense new beginning that's surrounding your kids and what they're doing out in the world, or this is you and your creative endeavors and what you're doing out in the world. So it could be that as well. Just pay attention, you know, make sure like this is a great new beginning for you in terms of what's happening on the home front, what's happening behind the scenes. There's a new beginning, you know, with your home, with your family, with your property. And it's really great, but just be aware, you know, that you could feel that little, like a little more scorpionic right now about it and hyper focused on it. But ultimately, you know, don't be too obsessed with it because it's gonna work out. Just be aware, you know, that energy is there and it's a little prickly, you know. So there is that. But that is for Capricorn and for Capricorn rising. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this Venus in sextile with Mars is happening from your 3rd house to your 5th house. This is an activation of the incoming June 10th eclipse and what this represents for you. Pay attention to what is going on around this day, a few days before, a few days after, as Mars approaches and then separates from that point. So this sextile is happening from your 3rd to your 5th. So this could be communication going on between you and your children. This could be communication between you and your siblings, extended family members. This could be something, I mean, this is an activation of the eclipse that's coming up in your 5th house, Aquarius, on the 10th of June. So pay attention to the conversations, to the people, to the things that are happening and going on around April 6th to get an understanding of maybe a preview of what's coming in, of the energy that's going to be shifting here, of the portal that's going to be open for you. So there's definitely something going on there. And for the new moon, the Aries new moon is happening in your 3rd house. There's also something to do with this Venus, you know, a new moon in the 3rd house in general. This is like a new beginning in terms of your communication, in terms of your siblings, maybe the life of your siblings, or maybe a new relationship with your siblings. Maybe there's a whole new beginning that's happening for you with your siblings. You know, I mean, there's, let's see, 4, 6, you know, 6 different areas that are affected by this for you. And so what this could be is this could be a new contractual partnership with someone, for a work or service, you know, or, you know, work this, but this is communicating about that as well. And so with Venus here too, I mean, Venus, she rules your 4th house of home and family, and she also rules your 9th house of travel, you know, education, things like that. But with this new moon happening, you know, with, and the square to Venus is a little bit more intense. Like there's something going on behind the scenes that's really intense, possibly something to do with your career that you're working on, but, or there's old traumas, old baggage, old wounds that need to be released out of that 12th house. And there's a focus on communicating about it. You know, maybe something to do with your home life, your family life, or something like that. But there's like this intense focus, especially with this new moon. You know, there's this really super intense focus on communication, on communicating something, maybe even messages and downloads and dreams coming in that are so intense and so profound and so focused on you communicating with someone else because there's something coming through for someone else. This could be something like that. Also, it could be a work project. It could be, you know, it could definitely be a work project or traveling for a work project, you know, within the community, and later on maybe something to do with, you know, traveling long distance. But this is something going on in your 3rd house of communication, you know, maybe even, you know, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Right. Okay. So then for Pisces and for Pisces rising, this sextile to from Venus to Mars is happening from your 2nd to your 4th house, Pisces. So what's going on here, pay attention to what's going on around April 6th, because this is an eclipse activation of what's coming on June. Jeez, get it together, woman. On June 10th, we are going to have a solar eclipse at 19 degrees of Gemini. Mars is activating that point right now. With Venus in sextile, pay attention around these days to what's going on, what's happening, what's unfolding, who you're talking to, what's going on with your money and materials, what's going on at home, because there could be something coming up for you in terms of a new home, moving, you know, something like that, because, you know, the ruler of your 9th and your 4th activating an eclipse point, this could be a fated karmic moment of finding that house that you're going to move to. This is your forever home. This is that, you know, that either, you know, Gemini, it could be moving communities, right? Like finding that house in that right community that you want to belong to. Now with Venus, you know, in square at this new moon, there's something new that's coming in for you, that's being activated with your money, your materials, your possessions, your value, your worth, your sense of worth. And there's this square going on between what's going on in the 11th house and what's going on in your 2nd house. So this could definitely be some type of monetary, this could be a focus on money and material and possessions. And because Venus does rule your 8th house and it does rule your 3rd house of communication, there could be a communication coming in from that social group that has to do with something to do with your money and materials, that has to do with some type of possession that you have, or that has to do, right? I mean, with all of this focus, there's something coming up for you, Pisces, that is really profound and very, it's going to require dedicated focus, but not so much so that it's going to, you're going to be blindsided, like blinders on, blindsided by anything coming in. This is definitely more of an energy of understanding, I would say, understanding and actually, this could be a focus on other people's material possessions as well, like money, materials coming in from other people in square with that Pluto up there in the 11th house. This could definitely be something, something's going on here to transform that like those goals that you have, those long range goals. And there's something coming into the 2nd house that's maybe you know, that needs to be communicated, that maybe has to do with other people's money joining yours, right? Like your money, your material, your possessions, but also other people as well, because it is the ruler of your 8th. So there's definitely something going on there that you need to pay attention to, but you need to be aware of the energy. It could be intense, but it could be transformative as well. And it's definitely something that, you know, going forward is going to, you know, transform for the long term. Because I think that once Venus gets back to this point next year, I mean, Venus is going to be going retrograde in Capricorn at the end of the year anyway, on top of Pluto. So there's definitely something that maybe you need to pay attention to right now. And I just had that epiphany moment. So there's, you know, unfortunately, you're the one that gets it, Pisces, not anybody else, because I just had that epiphany. So there's definitely something going on that's going to come up for reevaluation later on at the end of the year. So good luck with that. But that is it. That is the forecast for all 12 signs. I hope you like, share, subscribe, enjoyed. You know, I am just out here living my best life, trying to make my way through the world. I'm just a girl in the world, right? All right, everybody. So see you next week.